And welcome to another exciting episode of the Mando Method Podcast. I am your co-host and coffee drinker, Armand Rosamilia.
And I'm the other co-host and, unfortunately, water drinker, Chuck Buda, in case you didn't know who I was.
Is it just straight water, like tap water, or there's a flavor to it?
No, it's straight water, straight from the refrigerator, with the filtered water. So
I can't do it. I gotta have lemon. I gotta have something in my water.
I do that sometimes because it's actually good to make the water alkaline. It's good for the kidneys and stuff. But I'm sticking to water. I had too much coffee all day, and if I started drinking beer or whiskey, I'm sure I would upset our guests. So I said I'm just going to stick with water and be normal. But when I was drinking coffee today, of course, I was drinking Reaper's Brew coffee, our favorite. So it's a veteran-owned company, and it's horror-themed coffee. So you can get single bags, subscriptions, K-cups, you name it. Everything is microbrewed and fresh roasted. And, of course, they've got the two great flavors, the Murder Mud, which is the regular, and the Electric Chair, which is the high caffeine. And I like to play chemist and mix them up. So I get a lot of writing done that way. And don't forget, if you use the coupon code MANDO, M-A-N-D-O, at checkout, you'll receive 10% off of new orders, plus receive a free gift. ReapersBrew.com. Tell them Uncle Charlie sent you.
Are you still reading from a script?
I paraphrase, but I think that time I pretty much got all the bullets, yeah.
Like, we've done this commercial on episodes about 200 times now.
I know.
You can't do this off the top of your head?
I can. I choose.
From now on, do it off the top of your head.
Okay.
I don't want to watch your eyes reading something.
Oh, you could see him reading?
Yeah, see? Your giant nose and eyes.
Thanks.
Anyway, before this devolves into me yelling at you for 45 minutes, we have a special guest for this roundtable. We normally have two special guests, but the other one so far has not answered the call, which is fine because that gives our special guest more time with us, Chuck, for good or for bad. So please, special guest, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Kim Lengling. I am in Pennsylvania, and I thank you for having me as your guest tonight. This sounds like it's going to be fun, and it's nice to meet new people, so I always enjoy that. So thank you, gentlemen. I, too, am a coffee drinker. I drink copious amounts. I'm an author. I am the host of the podcast Let Fear Bounce, and the host of a newly online streaming television show, The Right Stuff, W-R-I-T-E, The Right Stuff, the author's voice, where I have authors from all over the world come on and chat about their journey and what it is they're doing. And I love dogs and coffee, and I am the queen of my realm. And that is a little bit about me.
That sounded Seinfeldian. I like that.
So what kind of books are you writing?
I write faith-based, a lot of nonfiction, faith-based, but I'm kind of dabbling, and shouldn't say dabbling. I've been writing short stories about my realm and me being the queen of it, and my dog and all the critters that live in the realm, all these conversations and little lessons that we learn, and all the wood sprites and the fairies that are out there that kind of peek their heads out every once in a while. So I've been writing those stories for about 6 years, and I am just now putting it all together and trying to make it into a real book or maybe a series, and I'm not sure where I should go, if it's young adult or if I can tweak it down to children. But that's been something that's been fun that I did just for the heck of it, because I would look at my dog and I would know exactly what he was thinking. And so I just gave him words, and then those conversations for years, I've written those conversations between me and my dog, and he has a following.
Cool. That's awesome. So we're both originally from New Jersey, and my daughter went to Shippensburg University in Pennsylvania. So big fan of Pennsylvania and the hunting and the critters, and of course Amish country. I love stopping there and getting my apple butter and all that kind of stuff. But when you talk about the critters, Any chance that there's been Bigfoot sightings or anything in your neck of the woods? I'm a huge fan, by the way.
Oh, okay. No, unfortunately, no Sasquatch sightings in my area.
Okay.
You mean a creature that doesn't exist? You didn't see? That's weird.
That's not cool.
Chuck, you can.
No,
You can.
I have not seen them, but we have bear.
I've seen bear. All right. I was just wondering because there's a lot of stories of or tales and legends of Bigfoot in Pennsylvania. So just wondering if
Really?
you had any experience with that. So
No, and I've not even ever heard that there were sightings in Pennsylvania. So
He just wants it to be. He just wants to be so badly. He's every guest. Oh, you're in Chicago. Have you seen a Sasquatch on Fifth Street?
they've been known to ride.
you ask everybody.
They ride the electric cart up top. I mean,
It's obvious.
yeah. Well,
Awesome.
I guess with Bigfoot question out of the way, then talk about your writing process, and you said you're doing mostly nonfiction, like faith-based nonfiction stuff. Do you have a set schedule that you like to stick to with writing, or do you kind of wait for the muse to hit, or have specific projects that you're trying to do, and that's what gets you to sit in the chair and write, or I guess explain what your typical writing process is like?
I coordinate anthologies as well. So, I get a group of about 20 people together and they submit their stories and I put those all together as books. So those are projects that I'm kind of always working on. But for my own personal writing, it's pretty much when it hits me, and it always hits me at strange times. I live in the country and I love being outside, and that's where the stories and conversations come to me. And so I've found that I use my phone a lot, and I'll speak these conversations that start coming. I'll record it in my phone. A lot of times it's late at night, 10, 11 o'clock at night, something hits and I just have to sit in front of my computer. I don't have a set schedule for me to write my personal stuff. I'm a night owl, and then I'm also up very, very early. And so that's late at night or very early in the morning, like dark 30 is pretty much when I write. And it's usually just when it hits me. I have a tough time actually staying to a schedule. I tried that and it felt like it was too much pressure for me personally. It was like I was putting stress and pressure on myself. Oh, Kim, you have to write from 10 to noon on this day. And I would sit there and be like, I'm blank. I have nothing of worth to write right now, So it just kind of comes to me, I think. And when it does, I kind of drop everything and get it down before I forget.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think it does kind of feel regimented too much sometimes to have a schedule. But by the same token, if I don't get a schedule going for myself, I can drift forever. And let the latest excuse, whether it's the day job or the dog or the kids or whatever else, get into the way of writing time. So for me, I have to schedule, or else I'll never get anything done.
But that's the fun of this. That's the fun. We all have our different ways of doing things. Like, Kim, you don't want this to be, this is a job. This is, I have to sit down for this number of hours and then I'm allowed to take my lunch break and then go back as a job. Whereas I'm kind of, I'll get up in the morning and I'll do all emails and I'll do all my stuff, but then I have a Post-it note of the breakdown of my day, what I'm going to do, because this is my job. But I cross things out all the time. Or my dad will call and we'll talk baseball for 2 hours, and then I'm like, well, I didn't get stuff done, or I'm like, I'm exhausted, I'm going to take a nap. And I don't beat myself up over that. I get my words in when I can, and I write every day if possible, but I'm not beating myself up. And I also don't want it to be where, I have to write something. I have to sit here, because that's, you're not being creative if you feel like, okay, you end up staring at the clock the whole time and go, okay, I'm writing until 11. Okay, it's 5 to 11. I can make pretend I'm lie to myself for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to go get some more coffee.
I do have a schedule, kind of like, because I have a podcast. So one day a week, that's all focused on the podcast, whether I'm recording or I'm editing, doing things like that. Another day of the week is for the television show. So that's recording or editing or getting that to the network, whatever. The other 3 days are when I do all my other stuff, like you were saying, emails, and because I have a couple clients that I help too. So I'm really busy, but I'm never too busy to write. So there's 3 days a week. A lot of times it happens on weekends, and I've tried to get myself to not work on weekends anymore, because then I would just work all the time. I'm just one of those people. So it was actually hard for me to focus myself and say, this is when you work, Kim. You need a life too. So, because I would go 7 days a week and just keep on doing stuff. So I do have a certain schedule, but my writing schedule, and I need to do that. And I've told myself that over and over. I procrastinate, obviously, on that. Maybe you guys will be my push to do that.
I can only yell at Chuck so many times. I can't, that's my.
Yeah,
that's
he'll suggest it to you, but he'll yell at me.
Yeah. I'll be nice to you about it. I've been yelling at him for 6 years now about this, so.
My pain. No, but it's good. I need the prompting. So talk about the TV show. So that sounds really interesting. Is it what came first, the writing or the TV show, the chicken or the egg?
I've been writing since 2004.
Okay.
So, and I'm kind of like a short story writer. That seems to be what I really enjoy doing, like between 3,000 and 6,000 words, and packing that with a punch. Mm-hmm. I want people to either be laughing out loud or crying when they're done reading, and it seems to work. But I started writing in 2004. Then just as a hobby. I had a day job. I was in sales and marketing for 25 years, the whole corporate world thing. Pandemic came and I lost my job because I was a road warrior for a manufacturing company. And when the world shut down, there was no place for me to travel to anymore. Mm-hmm. So lost my job, ended up having some medical issues, and sat there and thought, I don't want to go back to an office. I want to do what I've always wanted to do, which is write. And I want to put my heart and passion into that, because that's what brings me joy. And how can I make this happen? And so I just gave myself a day, 24 hours to be angry,
Wow, you're good.
Go outside and scream and yell and swear, be mad at the world, mad at God, whatever it is I wanted to be mad at for 24 hours. And then the next day I said, all right, time to pull up your big girl panties, Kim. This is not a slammed door. This is a door that's creaking open for you. So peek around it, see what's out there, and let's go make it happen. So not having a clue what I was doing, and with a little bit of nerve and maybe a smidge of fear, but I don't like admitting that. I started a podcast that day. No clue what I was doing. I literally Googled it. I Googled it and started one that very day.
Wow.
So it was writing, podcast, television show is how it all came. But within a year and a half, had a podcast, a television show, and had published 3 anthologies. So
wow.
I worked my tail off. To make something happen. And now, almost 2 years later, I'm still doing it. And I don't regret a minute of it. Even the days that I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's
Chuck,
awesome.
Chuck, when he lost his job, he spent that first year lying on the couch getting fatter. So.
Yeah, the first year. See, I gave myself 12 months to curse and stomp and feel bad for myself.
12 months.
And then the next 12 months, I wrote 12 books. So that was good.
Really?
Yeah,
but
then I had to go back to work because I had people showing up at the door that were trying to choke me out and break my legs and stuff. And I had a couple kids that I had to care for and make sure that they were fed and everything. So whatever. But yeah, I know that.
The family.
Yeah.
I know that feeling though, because I basically, wrote in the closet for like 30 some years and afraid to put it out there and have people judge me and everything else. And it took me a midlife crisis and losing my job, to wake up and go, what the hell am I doing? Like, let's just go for it. And you're right. Like, I feel the same thing. It makes me the happiest and most fulfilled. So, I can connect so much with your story and your feelings on that. So that's cool.
Yeah. I lost a job that I hate.
I reached a point in my life where, a certain age, I'm of a certain age now. And I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah. If I don't do this now, then when?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. It comes to, for me, it was 20 something years of retail management. I hated every second of it. And then I got laid off because I wasn't going to travel an extra hour and the pay was still awful and on. And I was like, all right, I'm going to look for another job, but I'm really not going to. I'm going to really get serious about this writing thing and see what happens. And now 12 years later, this has been my full-time job. And every day is even the bad days, I always remember going to that job. So it's, it's one of those things. This a bad day sitting here at my desk in my underwear is better than the best day of being in a store for 12 hours and dealing with customers and asshole employees and everything else. So
yes,
I would rather deal with Chuck an hour a week than have to deal with everyone else. So I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there.
I agree with the whole, even a bad day is better than a good day in the corporate world. If I have a bad day, I just grab the dog and we go for a walk.
Yeah.
And your day turns around. At least for me, my day will turn around pretty much after that. I just got to take that. Maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's half hour. Go for a walk out in the woods.
Yeah.
Come back. Like, all right, okay. We got that all done. We're good. Got all that angst off my shoulders. Yeah. Let's do something.
And you can't do that at a job. You can't go, hey, boss, I'm going to go take a walk. I'll be back in an hour.
Right.
Where I've had days where, like, the depression is kicking my butt and everything is driving me nuts and things aren't working out. And I just go, you know what? I'm taking a break. And I'll send my wife a message and I'll go, hey, when you get home, if you've had a bad day, I'm sorry. I don't want to hear it because I've had an awful day and I don't want to talk about it. And I'll just go and watch, Netflix movies, or I'll read, or I'll go take a nap or something. And it's that recharging, getting out of that situation, which is really a fun thing as an author to be able to do and not have to deal with that. Because, like, Chuck going back to work, but there's some weeks where we're together and he is so stressed for work stuff, or it's like, hey, we're recording at 6 and he's like, I'll be on at 7:30 because I'm putting out a bunch of fires at my day job, kind of thing. And then it changes the dynamic for that episode for me and him because his head is somewhere else a lot of times, and that really sucks. I can't imagine doing the podcast and doing all of this when I still had a 80-hour a week day job. You know, I mean, what's great is I've killed 2 ex-wives. I've killed everybody I've worked with. I've killed all these customers over and over and over again in my stories, which is great. But I don't want to ever have to deal with any of those people or see any of those people ever again.
No, I get that. You mentioned depression. I've talked to so many people. I live with that too. I live with PTSD from an experience I went through in the military, and depression is part of that. And you're right. When those days come, that's why I always say they creep in.
Yeah.
They creep in when you don't want them to, and you can feel it creeping in. At least I can. That's when I have to really focus on what's, rational. Say, okay, Kim, are you upset? Is this, something you really need to expend your energy on?
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that's going to technically trash your day, or is it just you're letting your thoughts run amok? And that is hard. That is hard on those days. I can agree with that. And there are times where, I just want to crawl on the couch and sleep all afternoon.
Yeah. And it's not like, for me, it's not like things set it off necessarily. It's not like, and that's what my wife did not understand for the longest time, was like, well, what happened? And I'm like, nothing happened. Something in my brain did this, and all of a sudden I don't like anything. I don't like anyone. I don't want to write. I don't want to watch television. I just want to just disappear for a few hours and get out of my head, and people don't understand that. But I think, I went to a convention a couple weeks ago, and one of the nights we had about a dozen authors all sitting around the last night of the convention, and somebody brought up depression, and they brought it up as if it was unique to them. I'm like, no, we're all creative people. We're all depressed. We're all crazy. We're all mixed up. We've all had, whether we've had awful things in our lives that have happened, whether it's abuse or PTSD, whatever it is, that channels, that the creative, at least for us, gets channeled. All that stuff gets channeled through the writing and all that stuff, when a lot of other people don't have that. I said, but I doubt anybody sitting at this table, no matter how it might not make sense, like I'm in therapy now, and it's literally like, you haven't been through anything. Why are you depressed? Is in my mind. Like, I feel guilty. I haven't been through anything. My parents are still together. I've never had anything awful really happen to me, but yet I'm still depressed, and so for me, it's the channeling that in the best of times, and in the worst of times, not crashing on the couch for 12 straight hours, or not, I mean, I've had days recently where it's noon and I'm still in bed, and I'm just like, I'm not tired. I just don't want to get out of this bed. I'm under the covers. I don't want to read. I don't want to do anything. I just want to lay here with my eyes closed and fight this battle in my head. And that's obviously, it's not healthy, but it's not an easy thing to do.
You use the word battle. I use that a lot, and I try to explain to people, because people don't get it. They don't, unless they live with it. And everybody is different. Everybody experiences it different and deals with it differently. But you mentioned battle. I was talking to someone recently, and I said, you've got to remind yourself that when you're talking to someone and they might be smiling up a storm, you have no idea the battles that they just fought the last 12 hours.
Yeah.
Slap that smile on their face and be a pleasant human being out in public.
Yeah. There's a great meme that I see all the time, and it says it's the faces of depression, and it's Robin Williams. It's all these people who have committed suicide, and they're all smiling. It's like 9 or 10 pictures of everyone smiling. So you just never know what people are going through, and as much as you also want to say, I'm here for you, I understand. Not everybody wants to deal with this. Not everybody wants to talk about it, because, again, we're all different.
Yeah, that's a good point. How you said not everybody wants to deal with it.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Or you figure I can do this on my own. For the longest time, that was me. It was like I said to my wife, you don't understand this. I'm just going to get nasty with you, because I get frustrated. And so I'm just going to deal with it. And nobody understands what I'm going through, even though I know that's total BS, that there are so many other, I could reach out to any author that I know right now, and they're probably going through the same general thing that I'm going through. And there's no reason for it. There's never hey, Chuck, you're depressed. Why? Because he doesn't know why half the time. I don't know why half the time. It's just something sets you off. It's the smallest little thing.
What I learned recently, emotional memory. A lot of that can come back to you, in your depression, emotional memory. So I had to put my dog down 4 years ago on August 6th. I have another dog, but the other dog I'd had for 14 years, and he was my guy. He was just my sidekick and super intuitive with me and knew when anxiety was creeping, and he would be able to ground me. It was just an amazing dog. But I had to let him go and say goodbye on August 6th, 4 years ago. So just a few days ago on August 6th, I woke up so depressed. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to even deal with people. I was like, nope, I don't like humans today. And I couldn't figure out the whole day. I could not get myself out of that funk at all. And it was like 3 days later, someone said, oh, isn't it close to the anniversary of you having to say goodbye to Digger? And I went, yes, it was 3 days ago. And 3 days ago, I was ridiculously depressed all day long. It was horrible. And my counselor had told me, remind yourself and think back of what may have happened, whether it was a year ago or years ago. Emotional memory plays a huge part in that.
Yeah. I wish we could just figure all this out and then just write some damn books. That would be that would be nice. Be in a good mood.
So Kim, talk about. I guess you said that you love doing short stories and all. Do you have plans or anything in the works for doing a longer piece of writing, or are you going to kind of stick to short stories for now? I always struggle with short stories. I think I'm better at longer pieces, but what are your thoughts on that?
She's frozen for me.
Can you hear me?
I think she dropped off.
Can you guys hear me?
All right, now we.
Yep. I guess you froze for a second.
I don't know if I dropped. I don't know what happened there.
You were frozen, like you were intent on watching Chuck's question. You were just.
Oh.
Well, and I'm used to getting that.
I wonder how long I was talking.
I'm used to people staring at me like that when I ask a question, so I didn't think anything of it. Honestly, now my question to you, Kim, was.
And I didn't.
Was you said you like to do short stories, and I was wondering if you had plans to write something longer, like a novella or a novel, somewhere down the road, or if you're kind of sticking to short stories. And the reason I ask is I always struggle with short stories. I think I'm better at longer works. I find the economy of words too difficult for me, but.
Oh. I would love to write something longer, and honestly, it intimidates me. I'm intimidated by the thought of trying to write out a whole 400-page book. So
you gotta learn to break it down.
Yeah, and I've not done that. I've not learned how to do that yet. Yeah. Because I'm not like I didn't go to college for writing or anything like that. It just kind of came to me. I call myself an accidental writer, and I'm one of those ones that's able to, so I've been told, pack a punch in a few amount of words that pulls people's emotions out. And right. That's just something I was gifted with, apparently, because I certainly I'm not educated on that or trained in that or anyway. I have all kinds of ideas for stories, like I was saying earlier about, the realm, kind of like a fantasy type book. I would love to make that, either a novel, a novel sized book, or make it into a series, of maybe not 400-page books, but
Right.
it's kind of intimidating to me, to be honest.
See, if you look at it, like I'll look at a lot of my books, I look at them as a bunch of interconnected short stories with the same characters. So that chapter is just a short story, and a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then we go to the next one. And you break it down that way, and it's a lot easier than going, I have to write 75,000 words, and it works sometimes, and then sometimes I look and I go, I got to write 75,000 words, and then I'm totally in my head on it. So, but yeah, that's the.
No, that's a good tip. Yeah.
That's the what Chuck Palahniuk, in the book I gave you, Chuck, that you never read. In that book, it's that's what he says. He basically says all of my books are short stories.
It's on my nightstand now because I have to finish it soon, so that you don't keep getting angry at me.
I brought it up for I don't know, a year now. I brought up that.
But you brought it up more frequently recently, so
yeah. Because it would be nice if you had actually read a book that I bought you and sent you. I have no money. I'm broke.
I read your books. That's
my last couple of dollars there, and I spent it on you to try to teach you, to learn you, and you're just.
I read
trying to learn you.
Your books. So.
Trying to learn you.
You can't teach an old Hungarian new tricks. What could I say?
Apparently not.
So how do you get yourself going, Chuck?
In terms of writing in general, or?
Yeah, do you have those days where, like Armand and I were just talking, don't want to get out of bed or off the couch?
Oh yeah.
Do you have those days?
Yeah, I mean, I have that a lot of the times as well, and I've gotten better at. Well, it's probably not a good thing, but I've gotten better at accepting those days and not fighting it, kind of like what Armand said. Sometimes you beat yourself up internally because it's just not one of those good days for you. And I've accepted that I have those days. The bad news is if you string a couple of accepted days together, you can very quickly lose a week or two of productivity. So that's an issue. And, I usually try to do what helps me is, and we've talked about this before on the show, is, I change location. So I'm a big proponent of, and you can't tell by looking at me because my exercise regimen is, not consistent either. But I believe that, if you move the body, you move the mind. So a lot of times walking and listening to podcasts kind of inspires me, gets me to work out some of the issues that I might have with a particular story that's going on in my mind. But the same thing with the writing, if I'm feeling kind of depressed or having a bad day, just moving my laptop from my office to another room, or going to the local community college and sitting in one of the cubes in the library really sparks some fresh, words out of me and gets me kind of back on track. So I find that helps, just by changing my space and the things that I see, because you can get into a funk. A lot of times what I have found since COVID, my day job allowed us to work from home as well. So I was able to keep my job, but the downside is like what Armand was mentioning is you start your day job at 7 a.m, you work until 6, 7 at night, and then you want to write at night, and you're like, well, geez, I've been sitting at this desk in this little office for 12 hours. Like, the last thing I want to do is sit at this keyboard and type more stuff. I just want to get out and pour myself a whiskey or go for a long drive or something. The last thing I want to do is sit at the computer for another hour or two. So a lot of times.
Don't pour yourself a whiskey and go for a drive, though. Don't do both.
No, I usually I don't
Bad
drink
idea.
whiskey until I'm on my way back home, so
Okay.
that way I don't
makes
cause any accidents. But so I find that will help me just by moving myself to a different venue, and getting out of the comfort zone, because you sit in the same chair and the same desk all day, and it's like you all of a sudden you can't draw that line between what's your day job and what's your personal business, the stuff that you like to do. So you got to kind of break it up.
You're very streaky as well. So Chuck will have like a 10,000 word Saturday, and he's killing it, and then like 3 or 4 days go by, and then he's back in his head and he can't write anymore.
Yeah.
And that's.
I've had those days too, where it's just a big spurt. It's just.
Yeah.
You get lost in it. I mean, I sat down the one day and I was writing a story. I think it ended up being like 6,200 words. I don't know how long I was sitting there. And when I was done, I just looked up and I'm like, oh, it's dark outside. Gosh, what time is it? And I had fallen. So I love when that happens. It just doesn't happen often enough.
Yeah. You take advantage of those. I'm with Chuck though. I'm sitting here all day. Like this is whether and again, this is my full-time job. So I'm sitting here, but I'm also sitting here playing games. I'm also doing other stuff. So sometimes you need that break. A couple weeks ago for my wife's birthday, we went to Biloxi, and I don't gamble, but she does. But the room's free, everything's free. And so while she's down there gambling in the casino, I'm writing up a storm because it's a nice change of venue for me, which is definitely what you need. And I had another author came over last week, and just having her in the house, and I can see her in the dining room, her writing and me writing. I ended up doing like 6,500 words while she was here, and it was great. And it kickstarted. And I ended up finishing a book like two days later, and so I think that's also part of it. You get into that rut of, what you don't want it to feel like a job, but you get into that rut was I'm back in this seat again. I'm sitting down in that same spot again, kind of thing, and that's not good.
Do you guys have you ever, or do you have accountability partners?
Not really.
I mean, Armand, you have your weekly news. It's not a newsletter, but your update for Patreon, where you hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, I hold myself.
I hide in a hole, because if I showed people my weekly productivity, a lot more than Armand would be yelling at me. So I keep to myself about how I'm doing.
Yeah. I'll do every Monday. I do on Patreon. I do the week that was, and I say last Tuesday I wrote 3,807 words on this story, and I wrote part of this story, whatever. And I'll do day to day. And if there's days where I haven't written, I say 0 words, and depression took over, or, had a family thing, whatever. And I'm breaking down every day like that, and good or bad. June was awful for me. Most of July was awful for me. So there was a lot there was a couple weeks there where I think maybe I wrote 1 or 2 days. I go live on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, and Friday afternoon, and I write, which holds me accountable, because people are watching me live as I'm writing a story, and that's helped. But some weeks those are the only hours. Those were the 3 hours a week that I was writing. That was it. So it's tough, but yeah, there's no like my wife will say, how'd you do today? And I'm like, well, I wrote 3,000 words, or I wrote whatever. But there's a lot of days where I just say, I laid on the couch and I watched Netflix all day, and she knows not to say anything. In the beginning, it was like, well, I'm working, you need to work, kind of thing. Not understanding that I didn't go, hey, I just want to take the day off, right. And I work 7 days a week. I mean, I did that one streak where I wrote, what was that, Chuck? Remember we talked, there was like 140 something days in a row I wrote without taking a break. And I got to the point where I was like, I need a freaking break here. Like I need something else. My wife's home on Saturdays and Sundays, and I'm up earlier than her. And the goal is to write before she gets up, and then hopefully we'll do something, or we'll watch television or whatever, or by the time she gets home from work, I'm done with my work day. But it doesn't always happen. When I'm in the zone, she'll call me on her way home from work, and I'll be like, "Hey, I'll talk to you when you get home." And she knows that means I'm on something right now. Like this,
Yeah.
I need to get this next page done before I lose my
Yeah.
train of thought.
Yeah, I don't like being interrupted when I'm in that groove.
Yeah.
That's tough, but I'm getting more disciplined. I think I'm getting a little bit better at it, and I like how Chuck said you have to recognize those days, acknowledge them when you have them.
Yeah.
Acknowledge them and accept them. And that's I've been working on that too. Just not beating myself up, because we're our own worst critics.
Yeah.
And we're going to beat ourselves up the most out of anybody else. And I have to remind myself of that regularly. Okay, Kim, you know what? So yeah, you half a day you did nothing, and that's okay.
Right. Now, do you ever go, okay, I want to write every day, and then you miss today? Do you ever go, well, I got to write twice as much tomorrow? Or do you just go, well, that day is over?
I used to do that when I was telling me, you got to do, but then, like I said earlier, it felt like it was putting too much pressure on myself.
Right.
And then that like the dialogue wasn't coming. I couldn't even, when I have characters in my head for I'm talking about the story that I'm working on that I've never published yet. I see them, I hear them. I know what they smell like. I know what their voices sound like. And if I can't feel that when I'm writing, because it feels like it's too much pressure, it's like I'm losing the characters. They're hiding from me. Then I realize that's me doing it. So I can't, that pressure, I don't like putting that pressure on myself. And for me, I have found I just go with it when it comes and it hits me. And if I sit there for 4.5 hours typing and, going nonstop and taking notes and laughing and crying as I'm doing it because I'm so into it, that's awesome. And then maybe some days it's only a half an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've learned not to, my goal is 1,000 words a day or whatever it would be. And not to go, well, I didn't do it today, so tomorrow's 2,000. It's like, no, tomorrow's still 1,000. And I know I'll make up that 100 words at a time over the next week or 10 days or so. So I'm not too worried about it. I'll push it a little bit more when I'm in the groove, and I'll go, well, you know what? I hit my 1,000 easily, but I want to keep going, because then it in my mind, it gives me that break somewhere down the line. I can take a day off, which is nice. I finished a book on Saturday that was getting very behind, that I ended up doing from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I think I did about 20,000 words in those 3 days and finished the book. And Sunday I was like, I'm taking the day off. We're gonna watch television. We're gonna hang out. We're not doing anything. And I was up at 7:15 in the morning, boom, wide awake, freaking out, because I woke up thinking I had to finish this book. And I'm like, the book is done. But then by that point I'm wide awake. And
right.
And I go and I sit down and I do some emails and stuff. And then I'm like, well, I could start the next book. And I'm like, no. So I ended up playing Minecraft for like 5 hours while my wife was sleeping, and just chopping down trees, like literally 5 hours of running around like an idiot, chopping down trees in the game, and just get out of my head. And just, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take the day off.
And it's okay if you only do 500 words in a day.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I've told myself, because I did try that, do this many words a day. And then I thought, well, what if I only do 500 a day? And you argue with yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait a minute, I didn't do that yesterday. So yeah, today I need to double up. And that's where I put the pressure. It's all me putting it on me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think probably for everybody, at least a lot of the authors anybody creative, we all beat ourselves up, and you just have to find what's right for you, that works for you, and to pretty much just say, like you had said earlier, hey, it's okay. And like Chuck said, I acknowledge that day. Okay, here's a day. It's going to be a crap one. I acknowledge it. Let's get on with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's right. And there's nothing else we can do. There's
No, because we are who we are, crazy as it may be. We're all a little wackadoodle.
Yeah.
I do that all the time with adding on. So if my goal is 2,000 words a day and I only do 1,000, tomorrow I got to do 3,000. And then if I only do 1,000, the next day I got to do. All right, now you're losing me on math. But anyway, I do that, and you're right. The pressure just becomes overwhelming because you're like, okay, at some point I've got to do 62,000 words in one day. How am I going to do this? And then you kind of give up. You're like, all right, going to go watch Seinfeld for 6 hours now. So.
Yeah, I've written every day for two straight months, but I've only done 1,000 words. So now I have 60,000 words that I'm suddenly behind on this thing because you're thinking about it every single day. I keep track. My wife made me an Excel spreadsheet years ago, and I keep track of my daily words. And my goal is 400,000 words for the year, and the stretch goal is 500,000 words. And it's to the point now where it is so in my face constantly. It's debilitating. Of holy crap! I'm not averaging 500,000 words. I should hit like 450, but that's not good enough. I want to hit that, and it's to the point where I'm like, you know what? Next year I'm just going to count pages. I'm not going to even worry about words because it's just I'm in my head and I'm losing sleep over that I didn't do that. I didn't do the 1,096 words a day is the goal, and it's bad. It's bad for you to. I don't want to feel guilty about taking a day off and hanging out with doing something with my wife. I don't want to feel guilty because, oh great, my daughter's coming to hang out and we're going to go to the pool and then we're going to go out to dinner and stuff. And I'm like, when can I fit my writing in? And I'm like, it's a Saturday, like hang out with your kids driving from Orlando, hang out with your kid for a while, So it's just we all have to figure out our own way through here and our own battles and everything else. It's a lot of fun. Chuck, you got any last questions before we wrap this up?
No, I think I bothered Kim enough with some of my inquiries, but I think this was a lot of fun because in a lot of ways, Kim, your process and your thoughts are similar to ours, and the suffering for the craft is the same. So I thought this was probably one of our best roundtables so far, in my own opinion.
Oh, thank you.
I definitely agree with it. We touched on a lot of different things, but personal things and everything else. So I think that was pretty cool. I'll definitely check out your podcast and your TV show as well, because I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. As well as drinking.
You guys will have to come on my podcast.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
All right. We'll do it separately, though. I can't, I don't want to be in the same room with him because he's going to get mad at me.
We do this an hour a week already. I don't want to.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
You know what else?
My show's just a half hour long, so it'll be short for you.
Perfect. All right, we could do it.
Well, that works. Also, check out reapersbrew.com, and I'm not reading this time. So don't
close your eyes and do it. Close your eyes and do it.
I'm looking right at you, Armand. Don't forget the two great flavors they got: the Murder Mud, which is the regular, and the high octane or high caffeine, which is the electric chair. And don't forget to use the coupon code MANDO, MANDO, at checkout and get 10% off of new orders, plus receive a free gift. And you can get anything: mugs, T-shirts, pods, single bags, subscriptions, anything. Just make sure that you tell them Uncle Armand sent you.
Ooh.
This time.
Next week, go back to reading the script.
I will. It felt more natural reading now.
Yeah. Kim, thank you very much for coming on. This is a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Chuck, we will do this again next week.
Can't wait.